Tonight, there is breaking news right now as we come on from New York City to Philadelphia, Connecticut to central Pennsylvania. The flood rescues already a level 3 out of 4 for dangerous flash flooding at this hour. Tonight, more than 50 million Americans under those flood warnings and watches right now. New storms slamming the east. A significant risk, including New York City, rain falling up to 3 to 4 inches an hour. So Ginger Z is standing by with the forecast. Also tonight, the images coming in, the horrific fire and the rescues. Firefighters going room to room at a senior facility, breaking down doors to pull seniors out. Tonight, the death toll and the number of injured right here. Also tonight, the horror at the Grand Canyon, the fires tearing through historic parts of the canyon. A lodge known for nearly a century gone tonight, and the stunning images, a massive spiraling mix of smoke and flames. The deadly church shooting, authorities say a man going in looking for the mother of his children. Instead, police say he opened fire on the pastor's wife and daughter, killing them and shooting others too. Tonight, President Trump trying to quiet a revolt among many of his most devoted supporters amid demands now over the Jeffrey Epstein case. The president defending Attorney General Pam Bondi and why it hasn't been enough and what his supporters are demanding. Tonight in central Texas, the new dangerous flooding hitting right now. Rescues all over again. Searchers still looking for victims from last week have been told to get to higher ground. Tonight, President Trump signaling a seismic shift on Ukraine, deploying new U.S. weapons, and what the president is now saying about Vladimir Putin. Tonight, the fight and chaos erupting on a passenger jet, that jet forced to make an emergency landing in Maine. There is news tonight about NFL legend John Elway after his longtime friend was killed in that golf cart accident. Tonight, you will see and hear Neil Diamond's surprise performance years after revealing his Parkinson's diagnosis. Fans were stunned. And America Strong tonight, the team up at bat, and you will definitely be cheering them on right here with us when you learn where they're from and what it took to get there.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It is great to have you with us here on a Monday night. Let's get right to it. There is a major flash flood threat as we come on tonight, including New York City, from Connecticut to Pennsylvania, right down to Washington, D.C. More than 50 million Americans on alert at this hour. And take a look. This is the radar as we come on tonight. Heavy rain coming down, 3 to 4 inches an hour in some places, falling on already saturated ground. Flooding roads. There have been rescues reported already. Thousands of flights canceled or delayed. The flooding, halting traffic in both directions on US 30. This is Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Heavy rain tonight falling in Hoboken, New Jersey. You can actually see New York City way off there in the background. These pictures from Hoboken tonight. Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z leading us off this evening. She's tracking it all for us. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, David. We've had to take cover here. So much lightning around, and those flash flood warnings have been going off on our phone. They read, this is a dangerous and life-threatening situation. Avoid travel unless you are in an evacuation order. Look at that map. The areas highlighted. Those are all flash flood warnings. Back through Pennsylvania, parts of New Jersey, Connecticut had them earlier. The problem with these storms, they are moving way too slow. That's why you're seeing those 3 to even 4 inch per hour rainfall rates, the training storms, as we call it. Many of these totals could end up in that half-foot range. So from Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Wilmington, Philadelphia included too, the next couple of hours are going to be awful. When so many people are on the roads, you see it moving through there. That flood watch going from Virginia through western Massachusetts and Connecticut. Watch as it moves. The next few hours are the worst. Then it kind of dwindles as we get closer to 11, all on that supersaturated soil. And speaking of supersaturated, one other area that knows that so well, Texas Hill Country. A flood watch extended through tomorrow morning. David.
Ginger Z leading us off here on a Monday night. We'll see you first thing in the morning on GMA. Thank you, Ginger. In the meantime, we turn now to the horrific images coming in. The rescues, firefighters smashing down doors to rescue seniors in a deadly fire at a senior facility in Massachusetts. At least 9 people killed, 30 injured. The fire overnight in Fall River. It's about 50 miles south of Boston. Firefighters finding residents hanging from windows, crying for help. Inside, those rescuers going room to room, breaking down doors to pull people out. At least 9 residents were found dead at the scene, 30 taken to hospitals. 1 person reportedly in critical condition tonight. And this evening, we hear from seniors who were inside as those flames broke out and the terrifying moments as their friends cried for help. Marcus Moore on the scene in Massachusetts.
Tonight, the harrowing rescues from a devastating fire at this assisted living facility in Massachusetts. It left at least 9 people dead and more than 30 injured. Heavy smoke and flames tearing through the Gabriel house in Fall River overnight. First responders banging on doors, climbing ladders, carefully rescuing dozens of residents from windows as they scream for help. You can see the broken windows up there and the shattered glass on the ground. For so many, this was their only way out. Lorraine Ferreira trapped in her room.
Smoke was heavy in there, and I opened the window, and I yelled, "Help, help, help." And the fireman came up the ladder, broke the window, and got me out.
Fearing the worst.
I thought I was dead. I really thought I was going to meet my maker. I did think that.
One after another, the injured rushed away on stretchers, residents in wheelchairs treated on the street. 5 firefighters among the injured. Captain Frank O'Regan describing the horrific scene.
They raised a ladder. I went in. I didn't have an air tank or anything. First room empty. Second door I kicked in, body. Next room empty. Next room, body. I just kept yelling. Guys kept coming down. We kept dragging them out. But I searched as much as I could, and then after a while, they just can't take that much smoke.
David, some residents said the staff response to this fire was inadequate, and in a statement to the Boston Globe, the owner says he's devastated by this tragedy and is cooperating with the investigation. And late today, officials said the fire here at the center does not appear to be suspicious. David.
What a terrifying scene, Marcus. Thank you. We turn next tonight to the awful scene playing out at the Grand Canyon. 2 major fires closing in on the North Rim, destroying historic parts of the park, including a lodge that had been there for more than a century. The Dragon Bravo fire, they're calling it, forcing evacuations and destroying that historic lodge, the Grand Canyon Lodge, more than 100 years old. And the stunning images tonight, a firefighter recording this firewall right there. ABC's Faith Abubey is on the scene tonight, and the stunning images, a massive spiraling mix of smoke and flames.
Tonight, campers, staff, and even firefighters near the Grand Canyon forced to evacuate after the Dragon Bravo fire exploded to nearly 6,000 acres. More than 70 buildings destroyed, including the nearly 100-year-old Grand Canyon Lodge, a national landmark. Kirsten Fong from Seattle had just checked in.
And then our tour guide came over and he was like, "We actually have to hustle it up."
Firefighters forced to retreat after a chlorine gas leak broke out at a damaged water treatment plant nearby. While 40 miles north of there, the White Sage fire, now 50,000 acres. Fire officials there telling Melinda Marshall her family's 102-year-old inn is still standing.
Right now, they've been able to secure that line in front of us that we're safe, and we hope it stays that way. The North Rim is our home.
Extreme heat fueling extreme fire behavior across the bone-dry West. A firefighter capturing this massive vortex of fire and smoke known as a fire whirl, working the Deer Creek fire near Moab, Utah. And David, the wind's picking up again, exactly the opposite of what firefighters were hoping for, meaning another tough night ahead as they try to get a handle on these raging wildfires. David.
Faith Abubey on the scene for us. Faith, we appreciate it. Next, the deadly church shooting in Kentucky. Authorities say a man going and looking for the mother of his children. And when she wasn't there in the church, instead, police say he opened fire on the pastor's wife and daughter, killing them. ABC's Aaron Katursky tonight taking us inside that church.
Tonight, this tight-knit community nestled in the rolling Kentucky bluegrass is grieving after a man opened fire inside a church, shooting the pastor, killing the pastor's wife and daughter, and injuring the daughter's husband.
He shot over my son, who was in a bassinet, and killed my mother.
72-year-old Beverly Gum and her 34-year-old daughter, Christina Combs, were shot and killed by this man, Guy House.
My mom died in the place that she loved the most. The only thing she loved more than her children was this church.
The rampage began Sunday morning when House shot and injured a state trooper who had pulled him over. He fled, carjacked a vehicle, and drove to Richmond Road Baptist Church looking for the mother of his children.
He's like, "Where's Angel? I just want to speak to Angel. That's my sister." My mom was like, "Angel's not here." He said, "Well, I guess someone's going to have to die then," and shot twice.
Here inside the church, the pews are still filled with what people left behind on Sunday: a bag, a hat, pillow, finery, hymnals, even a pair of shoes. All signs of a frenzied exit once the gunfire started. Police rushed to the scene and fatally shot the gunman. House had open warrants for his arrest and just 5 days ago was placed on the county sheriff's most wanted list. And we spoke to the woman he was after, the mother of his children.
He could have done the same thing to me that he did to them. It's very possible.
With an open warrant and a history of mental health issues and drug addiction, David, we asked the police today whether this suspect should have had a gun. State police did not say, but the family described him as a dangerous criminal. In fact, David, he was supposed to have been in court today for a hearing about domestic violence. David?
Aaron Katersky in Lexington for us. Aaron, thank you. Tonight, President Trump is trying to quiet a revolt among many of his most devoted supporters amid demands over the Jeffrey Epstein case. The president defending Attorney General Pam Bondi and why for some it hasn't been enough and what they're still demanding. Here's Jon Karl tonight.
Tonight, the White House is trying to diffuse an explosion of anger among President Trump's core supporters after the Justice Department and FBI announced it would not release any more information about the investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation?
For years, FBI Director Kash Patel and his deputy, Dan Bongino, stoked shadowy conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein. Shortly after becoming Attorney General, Pam Bondi promised the truth would come out, claiming she had a list of Epstein's clients.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
But last week, Bondi said there was no list at all.
I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
The president, like many New York celebrities, had some association with Epstein. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump said they had had a falling out and hadn't spoken for 15 years. Now the president is calling out his own supporters, saying, "What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals?" They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. Trump is urging them not to, quote, waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. But today, his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, said the president wants to, quote, set things right.
Well, I do think that there needs to be more transparency on this, and I think that will happen.
Top Democrats say Trump and his team created the problem themselves.
This was a conspiracy that Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and these MAGA extremists have been fanning the flames of for the last several years. And now the chickens are coming home to roost.
Trump worked the phones over the weekend trying to defuse this controversy. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel were both here at the White House today for meetings. I am told this subject did come up. Some of President Trump's outside supporters are now calling for a special counsel to look into all this. But senior officials who I have spoken to here at the White House say the president has made it perfectly clear that he wants to move on. David?
Jon Karl right there in the briefing room for us tonight. John, thank you. In Central Texas tonight, where those awful floods hit last week, killing so many, including those young girls at camp. Well, the new flooding and heavy rains tonight, and searchers who were still looking for victims from last week were told to get to higher ground. ABC's Maria Villarreal from Texas.
Tonight, residents across the Texas Hill Country on edge after rivers and creeks burst their banks and forced water rescues on Sunday. Crews battled a swift and powerful current to save this stranded driver stuck in waist-high water in McGregor, Texas, trying to throw him a life jacket, eventually taking him to safety in a boat.
Job number one is always saving lives, protecting lives, and finding those who have lost their lives.
After that July 4th flash flood killed at least 132 people along the Guadalupe River. Today, Kerr County on high alert with fresh rounds of rain, urging search teams to move to higher ground. Officials say the number of people still missing has dropped from 160 to 101 as more victims have been identified and more of the missing accounted for. Officials today warning the search could last up to 6 months.
We've heard accounts of trailer after trailer after trailer being swept into the river with families in them. Can't find the trailers.
David, all of this rain obviously impacting the search crews. This river behind me rising several feet just today. The county is now saying they're bringing equipment to meticulously search the river, and they're also planning to drain 2 nearby lakes very soon. David?
Extraordinary scene right there behind you again this week, Maria. Thank you. Next tonight, President Trump signaling a seismic shift on Ukraine, now deploying new U.S. weapons and what he's now saying about Vladimir Putin. Ian Pannell in Ukraine again tonight for us.
Tonight, a major about-face for President Trump, announcing he's selling US-made air defense weapons to NATO to help defend Ukraine from Russia's relentless assault. The move comes after months of praising Vladimir Putin, saying he believed he wanted peace. Today, he threw in the towel.
And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there.
It was the deadliest month for civilians in Ukraine. Russian missile strikes in major cities increasing from a year ago. Trump growing frustrated.
We thought we had a deal numerous times. I'd get home, I'd say, First Lady, I had the most wonderful talk with Vladimir. I think we're finished. And then I'll turn on the television, or she'll say to me one time, wow, that's strange because they just bombed a nursing home. I said, what?
Now, along with those Patriot missile systems, President Trump threatening severe tariffs within 50 days unless Russia agrees to a peace deal. President Zelensky, who met with the US Special Envoy earlier. Speaking to Trump tonight, welcoming the move.
David, two defense officials telling ABC News the Pentagon's still working on what military aid is going to be approved, but many here underwhelmed. One Ukrainian analyst comparing it to giving morphine to a dying patient. David?
Ian Pennell live in Kyiv again tonight. Ian, thank you. The Supreme Court handing President Trump a victory tonight, allowing the president to lay off nearly 1,400 workers at the Education Department. The ruling lifted a block on the president's executive order that a lower court judge had imposed. This new Supreme Court ruling tonight unsigned and gave no reasoning, but the three liberal justices dissented. About half of the workforce at the Department of Education now gone. In New York City tonight, former Governor Andrew Cuomo announcing he will stay in the race for mayor and run now as an independent. But Cuomo says if a September poll shows he's not the highest-ranked challenger to the Democratic nominee, he will drop out of the race. Cuomo lost last month's Democratic primary to 33-year-old self-described Democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani. Current Mayor Eric Adams is also running as an independent. When we come back here tonight, the fight and chaos erupting on a passenger jet, this jet forced to make an emergency landing in Maine, and what we've learned. Also, this surprise moment from Neil Diamond, you'll see it, and the images coming in now, the home surveillance showing a plane going down in a neighborhood. Multiple injuries, neighbors racing to try to save those on board. In a moment here. Tonight, the images, a small plane crashing into a neighborhood in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Home surveillance capturing the plane going down Sunday. Miraculously, everyone survived. 4 people injured, unclear the extent of their injuries. The pilot trying to land at the time, neighbors using fire extinguishers and a water hose to put out the engine fire. A passenger flight from Cancun to London forced to divert to Maine because of 2 fighting passengers. The TUI Airways flight landing in Bangor, the crew reporting a passenger disturbance. Authorities taking both passengers off that plane. When we come back tonight, there is news this evening about NFL legend John Elway and that surprise moment from Neil Diamond, and you'll see it. To the Index, NFL legend John Elway has been cleared in that golf cart accident that killed his friend and former agent. Elway was driving when Jeffrey Spurbeck fell out of the cart at the Madison Club near Los Angeles in April. Well, 7 years after he retired and revealed his Parkinson's, Neil Diamond surprising fans in L.A. He appeared right there at the matinee of A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical, and by the way, he's now 84. Love seeing that. When we come back tonight, one team I am sure you'll be rooting for tonight, and they've just sent in their message for all of you at home. Finally tonight, one Texas team, America Strong. Tonight here, the young softball team determined to show up despite what they've endured. The Texas Voodoo Girls softball team from Kerrville, Texas. The devastating floods hitting their hometown just 10 days ago. They had been training all season long for a national competition in Oklahoma City. As a team, they decided to make that 7-hour drive north anyway. They were there for each other, and just listen to the reason they made the trip.
Hi, David. Hi, David. Hey, David.
Their coach, Corey Traub.
Thank you for reaching out to us. They'll tell you why.
Macy Cobb on first base.
Even through all the hardships, we still wanted to represent the Hill Country community.
Right fielder Bailey King.
It helped take our minds off of the devastating floods happening in our hometown.
Hi, David.
Shortstop Cadence Barbo.
Even with all the heartbreak and devastation, we wanted to show that we can do it.
Coach Traub's daughter Kylie, a pitcher and second base.
Our community has come together and we have been supported in so many ways. Hi, David.
And catcher, shortstop, and pitcher Callie Phillips. Callie and the whole team telling us they lost 3-1, then 3-2. It was close, but just getting there was the victory. And they are proud to represent their hometown.
Even though we have suffered an unmeasurable amount of pain and tragedy, we will stay strong and rise above all of this.
You will indeed, and we're cheering for you. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.